Just today, one of my students also came to me and asked me, teacher, what are the things I supposed to do if I want to get a very high mark in my IGCSE exam? So the first thing I told the student is that, look, if you want to write your IGCSE exam, the first thing is you need to focus and you need to aim high. So don't ever think that you want to go for C or you want to go for B. At least always think of A star. So if for whatever reason you couldn't get that A star, then A is still there. So because IGCSE is quite easy, it's much more easier, so to get A star or A. That's number one. Then number two is to know the total number of the paper you want to write. So some subject has just only 2 papers, while some has 3 papers. If you know the total number of the paper you want to write, then it's much more easier for you to plan ahead, so how to study. Then number 3 is to know the component. For example, there are some components that are very easy in ICT here. Cambridge actually asks a new question in component 31, so which is the meta tag. And most of the students, of course, being the first time they are meeting that kind of question, so they find it difficult somehow to answer. And that's around 20 marks. Then this year, I didn't take component 31. I take component 32. So for all my students. And when I saw the question is quite easy. So you too, you have access to all the past year paper. So you can actually look at all these components. Paper 31 and paper 32 for ICT is the same. So you can choose any of the two. So the same thing with the theory. So component 11, component 12, component 13. So you can look at it. Even the same thing with your sciences, some 21, 22, 31, 32, then 41, 42. You can look at all these components and so you try to answer them, look at the marking scheme, and you can choose your choice. Then another thing you need to pay attention to is how many marks do you even need to get a star? For example, in ICT, you don't need to get 100%, even not 90%, not 80%, even not 70%. Sometimes it's as low as 68% to get a star. And sometimes it's around 72, sometimes it's around 74. But for the past 3 years, the highest ever is 74%. So 74% is quite, so it's quite good. You can still get 75%, so to get a star. So the same thing with, other subjects as well. There are some subjects that is around 85, some is around 95 and 90. So try to know how much mark do you need to get before you can get a star, so in each paper. And more so, you know that the weights of these papers are different. For example, for theory in ICT, it is 40 marks. While the practical 1, practical 2, which is paper 2 and paper 3, they are 30% and 30%. Now, the theory is 40%. If you look at it, paper 2 is extremely easy. It's very, very easy. It doesn't even make sense if you started losing marks in paper 2. If paper 2 is 70 marks, you can actually get 70 out of 70 in paper 2. Paper 3 is a bit tricky somehow. So, let's say you get around 60 or 55 out of 70. That's not bad. Then in paper 1, you don't have any control on that. Any question can just come from anywhere. And even if you get around 50 out of 100, let's say 50 out of 80 or 40 out of 80, that should be good enough. Then you will get your A star with ease. So you need to know each paper. So then you try to know that, okay, how many marks do you need to get before you can have your A star? Then another one is, when you start studying, in each subject, how many chapters do you need to cover? For ICT, for example, you need to cover 21 chapters. But out of these 21 chapters, only the first 10 chapters are the most important one, which is the theory. 11 to 21, they are all about the practical, which means, so that's not a big deal, by the way. So in as much as you know what you are doing, then you shouldn't have any issue with the practical. So the theory is the most important thing, which is chapter 1 to 10. So in your chemistry, in your biology and mathematics, try to know, so what are the most so what are the most important chapters that you're supposed to focus on? And for your information, do you know that there are some chapters that every single year, you will see question on them. And there are some that just only once in a while, so they will ask question on it. For example, in chapter 3 in ICT, they don't always ask question on chapter 3 in ICT. Chapter 9, they don't always ask question. But for chapter 4, for sure you will have question. Then chapter 6, chapter 7, and chapter 8. Those are the 4. So if you even have, a very little time, or for some reason you cannot memorize a lot, or you are not ready to read a lot, then I can even advise you that as far as ICT is concerned, so focus on chapter 4, chapter 6, 7, and 8. So you can do the same thing for other subjects as well. Then the next one is the terminologies. When the question says identify, explain, describe, then discuss, what is expected from you? What do they want you to do? Because if you don't understand all these things, this is how students used to lose marks. We are starting marking today, by the way. So, and I quickly want to share all these things with you. I'm going to make another video on all these terminologies. Perhaps maybe tomorrow, if I have some time, I will make some video for you that when the question says identify and describe and some other things like that. So what is expected from you? What do they want you to do? So I wish you the best. So then finally, if you need a tuition for your ICT, I'm an ICT teacher. If you need a tuition for ICT, you can always message me on edubey, EDUBBEY at gmail.com, edubey@gmail.com. You can message me, then I can provide you some tuition. I'm a Cambridge examiner, by the way, and I can give you exactly what you need. Yeah, you do not struggle a lot before you get your easy A star. So I wish you the best. Bye for now.